All right, let's get started. I'm Andy Mann, Instructional Technology Coordinator and Director of the RIMC here at Muskegon. I want to welcome you to the Desmos Activity Builder series. This is a series of 6 workshops that are going to be held from 4 till 5:15. Andy said I'll even stay on a little bit longer if people have questions or want to practice, but that's our official time. I hope that you've registered. Obviously you have if you're here today. There is a website that I have posted here and I keep sharing it in the links. This is where we will put our resources. Here's the ones for today. And then on the other dates right here, I'll have a link to the videos, recordings from each one of these. That's about all I have to say. Let me go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Andy. Let me stop sharing my screen. And I'll be monitoring the chat today, so I'll be his helper.
Okay, thank you, Andy. To introduce myself, I'm Andy Melbuff. I'm a math teacher at Whitehall High School. I've been here for quite some time now. And I just also want to throw out a couple of thank yous. I want to thank Andy Mann for his help in putting this workshop together. Andy is an educational technology consultant for the ISD, and he's done a lot of great work this summer in helping us teachers on this side of the state get ready for virtual types of learning experiences. And I also want to thank Kristen Frang and Danielle Boskill from the ISD. They are math consultants there, and they helped put this together also. So let's go ahead and get started. And hopefully you're seeing my screen, and what you're seeing is what is Desmos Activity Builder. So what I was hoping to do in this first session is give those of you who are unfamiliar with it a little bit of exposure to what this is. And as you can see on the screen in front of there, basically it's a sequence of screens. It can be as simple as that. And we're going to use those screens as teachers to tie together concepts and tasks and prompts and questions and hopefully enable our kids in going through them in a certain order to make connections between mathematical concepts. So since we have a lot to get started with today, let's go ahead and dive into what some of the features are in Desmos Activity Builder. If you look at your chat, the very last item in the chat is a link to getting started with Desmos Activity Builder. And I'd like you to go ahead and open that if you would, please. Now, when you open that, I'm going to quit sharing my screen here. When you open that, you will then see that you're frozen, okay? And I have everybody paused at this point. So what I'm going to do is unpause your screens, and you should have a little bit of freedom to go through the first 4 screens. And I think the tasks on there are self-explanatory. So I would say, go ahead and do that. You can work on the first 4 screens. I'll give you about 30 seconds to do so. It won't take you too long. Welcome to those of you just joining us. If you are just signing in right now to this Zoom meeting, this is a Desmos Activity Builder workshop, and my name's Andy Melbuff, and Andy Mann's here, and we're starting people out with an activity. It's in the chat on the left or on the right-hand side, and if you click on that link, you'll be able to join us. Now, many of you are still finishing up, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I want you to see what I'm seeing. And so what's coming up here is what's called a teacher dashboard. And so all of you on the left-hand side here are students in this particular activity. And what you'll see then are near the top, there are 4 slides in orange. And I'll go ahead and blow my screen up here a little bit. So it's not getting any bigger. I'll get it bigger in a moment. What you're going to see at the top here are 4 slides, and those are the slides that you just did activities with. Now, I think slide 1 was self-explanatory, and slide 2 was just something that Desmos Activity Builder teachers started using once the COVID pandemic hit back in the spring. We started checking in on our students. So I just wanted you to see that there are things that you can do that are non-mathematical in here as well. The third screen involved what's called a card sort, and I can see the results of all of your sorts here, things you dislike, things you like, etc. And then the reasons you wanted to be here. This is kind of an ordered list. So the reason you're kind of stopped here after screen 4 is I have pacing involved. That's why these screens that you're looking at near the top here, if you just kind of follow my cursor, that's why they're in orange. They're paced here. So the reason for that is to allow a teacher to control students, make sure they're not zipping ahead to where they shouldn't be, and allow teachers to slow students down sometimes so they can have some discussions with them. So at this time, I want to advance you 1 slide. You should be able to access slide 5 now. And slide 5 is just going to be a quick look at some of the objectives that we're going to look at today. The objective today is to get you some exposure to this platform, assuming you've never seen it before. One of our objectives is also to get you a feel for how students can be engaged, some of the hands-on work that they can see, some of the access to visual models and tables and representations that they will have available to them, and for you to get some experience with looking at different lesson activities and slides and searching for your own things that might fit your own particular needs. So if you, as we go along from here on out, if you have any questions, feel free to type those in the chat. Andy Mann's going to be monitoring that, and we'll see if we can get some of those questions answered for you. So what I wanted to start with, I'm now opening up screen 6. And screen 6 is just kind of a title screen. There's not much to it, but after screen 6 are 16 slides that will depict a sample lesson activity using illustrative math as its basis for content. And to be honest, I don't know that we'll have the time to look at all of these, but I did want to put together what would be a somewhat comprehensive lesson, and this would be designed for 8th grade math students studying proportional relationships. So what I'd like to do is take a few minutes now and let you explore, let you play, let you have a little fun with seeing some of the different things that could be created. So I'm going to advance the pacing here to a certain point, and I'm just going to say, go ahead and check out some of these different screens and how they might connect with one another. Feel free to answer as many or any of them that you wish to. I know we have different, varying levels of teachers here today. We have elementary teachers, high school teachers, people at the university level. So this doesn't apply to everybody, but feel free to just play around with it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that you'll have a little more room if you want to go full screen on yours.
Andy, I'm on the slide with the equation and describing that, and it says wait here for 3 of your classmates' responses. Would those pop up on this screen?
They will. You don't need to wait. Don't feel like you have to wait.
I was curious because kids would.
Well, yeah, some would.
I wanted to see what that would be like. So I'm presuming that other people have certainly typed in their answers, and I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, which screen number is it in the upper left?
7, screen 7.
Okay, I'm seeing 20 some answers in here.
Yeah. I refreshed. All set.
Oh, is that all set? Okay.
All right, now
Good
I
to
know.
hear. Good to
Tell
hear.
kids that. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take you all to screen 8 for a minute because many of you have been there already. And you'll all be forced there. I know that's an annoying type of thing, and especially with kids. I hear about it all the time from the kids in class when I make them go to a certain screen. But I wanted you to take a look at this screen for a moment because we have some discussion coming up here. Now, what I'm going to do is share my screen again with you. And I want to show you a couple of the results. Let me pull my zoom up here a little bit higher. Here are two of the results from the graphs. And the reason I'm pulling these up is they're different. And this is an excellent opportunity, if you happen to be in a classroom setting, to have a discussion with your students about which graph is correct, which graph is incorrect. Maybe they're both correct. Maybe they're both incorrect. And I think you can get some really deep discussions going comparing graphs. And you can also do the same comparing tables. So I'm going to show you another one here. I have anonymous names on here, so you're not seeing your names, but we can also show student work and have discussion about it in terms of tables. So this is kind of something that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth in a later session, but I just wanted to show you now that as you were going through, as a teacher, I can look at your work as students and I start thinking about the connections you're making. And I start wondering about why this student put this point here, or why this student made that comment. And I think that's something as teachers that could be really valuable for us in looking at student work here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. And I want to take you all back to, you're all on screen 8. And at this time, I'm going to keep it paused here right now. Actually, there's the pause. Now your activity is paused. And when you do that in a classroom as a teacher, if your kids are into something, engaged with it, they get mad at you in a hurry. But what I'd like to do is ask you in the chat to type down an observation or two that you've had thus far. Is there a particular slide you liked? Is there a particular concept that you thought was engaging or something like that? I'd like you to share in the chat, if you don't mind, thoughts, observations based on what we've seen so far. Okay, and looking at the comments coming in, I see a variety of responses here. Some that more prevalent than others are like, and I'm paraphrasing here, that people liked how they would type values into a table and see those points instantly plotted simultaneously. And that's a pretty cool feature, I agree. And then on the next screen that you can have that graph carry over to another slide and then try to match those points to a line that you're graphing in there. And that is a particularly cool piece, I think. And we call that interpretive feedback, meaning the student gets to judge for themselves how correct they are, how incorrect they are, just by what they notice visually. And I think that's a more powerful piece of feedback than just saying right or wrong in words, where a student gets to view for themselves, you know, how they're doing on a particular slide. Now we're gonna do in a later session. There's a little bit of behind the scenes work to do to make those slides, but we're going to take a look at some of those types of things in a later workshop session, that interpretive feedback. So I'd like to have you, if you would now, go back to the Getting Started with Desmos Activity Builder lesson. I'm going to take the pause off. I'm going to take the pacing off. And I'd like you to go over to slide 18. And I'm going to pace you from slide 18 to slide 23. And this is a similar conceptual type of thing that we're looking at for this grade 8 lesson on comparing proportionality. But I would just like you to go through some of these slides. Some are similar, but there are a couple of different features here. So I'd just like you to experience those. Now I'm going to do a little commentary as you're working through those. On slide 19, you have a choice of a table or a graph. I'd like you to at least click on both at one point or another just to see how it's going to look. But then you have a choice of explaining your reasoning. And I think that's a pretty cool feature to give kids an opportunity to use a table or use a graph or use, another strategy possibly. But I think this is an excellent demonstration here of a choice. You get a choice on how to show your reasoning. And as you advance to screen number 20, you'll notice you're being asked to analyze a question. And after you submit your answer, you get another one. This is a feature called hiding a component. And I think it's a very useful thing to get kids to focus on one particular item or another. And once they answer a prompt or a question or explain something, then they get the next piece of that. So that's what you're all looking at on screen 20. Okay, and as many of you are on screen 21 now or headed there shortly, here's an example of an incomplete graph. This particular graph has a point that is frozen. It will not go past 19,570. And the purpose of that is to get students to project to look at for a pattern there. And what's the pattern in that movable point? And I think that could be used to make students think about, how they're going to finish this particular question. And also, if I were a teacher of this classroom and you were all students, I'm watching your responses as you type them in. And if I happen to be in a classroom, and this is in school, a face-to-face school, and there's a glaring mistake, I can quietly walk over to the student that's having that problem and, whisper something, give them a hint. And so that's nice to be able to see. Okay, and screen 22 is another card sort similar to the first one you were experienced at the beginning of this activity, but this one is, well, you'll see in a minute because there are correct and incorrect groupings. So you're being asked to make 3 groups, each group having a graph, equation, and a table, and they all have to represent the same relationship. So think about that as you start pulling the cards around. If you feel like you make a mistake, you can easily separate the cards and start over again. And when you feel like you have a correct grouping for each one, and you have 3 correct groupings, I should say, go ahead to slide 23 and get some feedback. And on my end, from the teacher view, again, I can see all of your work here, and I can see the groupings that you have thus far, and it's nicely color-coded. So again, that's helpful if you have a student or students struggling on something and they're clearly not making the correct connections. You can intervene in a quiet way with them without yelling out across the room. And again, this also highlights a card sort, something like this, also highlights the opportunity to let students make a mistake and still keep working on something, which I think is very valuable in their learning. Now, this particular card sort has feedback to it. You can also have card sorts that don't have feedback. But this is a pretty engaging type of thing. You can make it fun for them. You can throw in fun pictures. You can put in things that maybe don't belong with other things and see if kids are able to observe that okay, this does not belong. Which one does not belong, so to speak? Okay, in the interest of keeping us moving along, because I want you to experience some different things, feel free to stay here and finish with this if you'd like to, but I'd also like you to experiment with some different types of activity features that maybe aren't all tied into one conceptual lesson. So in the chat, in the Zoom chat, I posted a link just about a minute ago, and it's called Exploring Different Activity Features. If you would like to click on that, and I see some of you there, this is a rather large file. It's got, I don't know, 30 some slides in it. And this was something that I used early in the summer for another couple of teacher people that I was talking to about Desmos Activity Builder, and wanted to give them some examples of different things slides can do. So I want to kind of pace you through this a little bit as well. So I'm going to put some pacing on. From slides 1 to 15. And take as much time or little time with them as you'd like, but these are some of the more basic types of activities that you can incorporate in Desmos Activity Builder. And again, conceptually, these are all disjointed. They're not connected to one mathematical concept. Rather, they're just examples of what different slide activities can look like, from simple multiple choice to multiple select to short answer mathematical input, et cetera, et cetera. So just try to get a feel for some of the different things that you can do on a slide.
Andy, there is a question about, can you use the equation editor? Oh, never mind. She said she found it.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, and we'll be going over that in a later activity as well, or workshop as well. So I see where you guys kind of all are. You're mostly clustered between slides 8 and the 13, 14, 15. If you would, I'm going to pause you for about 30 seconds, enter an observation in the Zoom chat. What was something you liked that you saw in there? Was it the matching a graph? Was it the card sort? Was it the marble slides? Was it the geometry piece, ordering lists? What did you like? If you don't mind, put a quick observation in the chat, please. Okay, thank you. Awesome comments there. You know, it's interesting, the different likes that people have. You know, card sorts are popular, marble slides are popular. People like sketching and graphing. And so I'm going to unpause this, and I want to take you over to slide 16. And I would just like you to read that for a moment. Now, what slide 16 says is basically what I'm going to show you next are a little more time consuming to put together as a teacher. The first set of slides there, some of these are fairly easy. I mean, you can do a slide in a matter of 30 seconds if you'd like to. And as you become more comfortable with creating your own, then you can move on to some more sophisticated ones. But I'd like you to have a feel for what some of the really cool features of Desmos are. So I'm going to take the pacing off and say from slide 16, move ahead and just try to think about the different new pieces that you're seeing on each slide. Now, seeing most of you are on slide 17, this slide has feedback to it, okay? And it's not what we would call interpretive feedback. The student, you, is just being told you're right or you're wrong. Something's right, something's wrong. And so, I mean, that's valuable in a sense, especially if you're, you know, teaching in a situation where you're asynchronous and you're not, you know, at the same time with your kids. But, you know, that has its place. And moving ahead to slide 18, most of you I see have passed that by now. You get feedback on a numeric input. And when you get to slide 19, would anybody like to be bold and try a suggested answer? Somebody type in 33. And what kind of feedback do you get from 33? And again, it takes a little bit of time, but you can build into a question, if you'd like, feedback for rounding, which depending upon the grade level or the age level, maturity level you're at with your kids, could be really beneficial as well. Okay, screen 20 is what I would call a matching graph slide, where you ask students to submit their input, and this is interpretive feedback. They get to see the results of what they've done. And I think the feedback is really, really more powerful for them because they're judging their own performance and not just looking at a yes or a no. And it's really interesting for me watching from the teacher role here, how all of you are making adjustments. And I think that's a really cool piece of education, is watching the changes that people make when they recognize something's not quite right and they adjust to it. I see some of you adjusting your slope. I see some of you adjusting what we would call a y-intercept, and you're all getting better at this. I mean, that's a wonderful piece of learning going on right there. Okay, apparently my feedback's not working on that cylinder screen, so I apologize for that. Or else I gave you the wrong number, one of the two. Okay, we're kind of getting low on time, and I want you to have the time to do a couple more things. Screens 21 and 22 are connected. Screen 21's got a table that students are being prompted to enter values in, and then those values carry over to screen 22. And then you can get some discussion going here as well. So you saw one of these earlier, but this one's in a more of a geometry setting. Now, I am going to jump you ahead a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. Screen 24. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the open middle concepts in mathematical education. I think there's a lot of great value in taking some of the structure out of problems for kids and making them a little more open-ended and giving them some leeway into how they put together their thinking and their conceptual understanding. Open middle problems are great for that. If you wouldn't mind, try slide 24. Now to drag, you'll have to drag where the little circles are above the numbers. And you're trying to make a true statement. And when you get the boxes all filled, you'll have an opportunity to get feedback under check my work. Okay, I'm going to annoy all of you in a second. Sorry about that. I'd like to share a screen so that we could have some more discussion. Here's what I would like to show you. Okay, on this screen here, 3 of your different responses that were all marked correct. Some of you started out with 78 in the first 2 boxes. Others of you started out with 24. A third person started out with a 98. And these are excellent opportunities to have discussions with students about, are any of them right? Is one of them right? Are they all right? Why? And it's great for critiquing. And again, it's all done in an anonymous setting, so that we're not seeing names and we're not going to embarrass any students. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. I'll take the pause off. I thought I took the pause off. No, I didn't. Okay. Would you please jump ahead to, well, I'll just let you, we're going to go another minute here before we have to start our wrap up, and I want to take you back to our original activity. Okay, so we're going to wrap up our looking at the different activity features part of this. If you would like to, I would like to ask you to take a moment and type in the Zoom chat, what's something you liked or something you thought, oh, I'm not ever going to use, or share an observation, if you would, with us, please. Something you liked or would like to see more of, maybe. Okay, I'm watching these comments fly right by. Somebody just asked about calculus. Absolutely, yes. If you're a Twitter person and are interested in looking for calc activities, there are lots of people out there in Twitter world that will gladly share their calc activities with you. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm pasting into the chat here a link. Oh, it didn't go blue though, because I spelled Desmos wrong. Teacher.desmos.com. Open a new tab if you would, please. And teacher.desmos.com is kind of the homepage for Activity Builder. And as you can see on the left-hand side, you're right on the home element there. And they have featured collections, featured activities. And I would just like you to take about a minute or two to explore some of the different features shown on this homepage. And then we'll talk about searching for things. Now, as you're exploring some of the different categories here, I want to talk about a couple that as an introductory teacher to this, as somebody who's brand new to this, something you might want to take a look at. Under most popular activities, one of the most popular ones is Will It Hit the Hoop? For those of you familiar with Dan Meyer as an educator, he works for Desmos full time now. He's one of their consultants, and he does a lot with design and development of their lessons and their curriculum. And Will It Hit the Hoop is a very popular activity. It's pretty long. It's got 30 slides to it, but lots of teachers have worked with that type of activity and done it over a 2-day period. You'll also see from the home page fairly new ideas called starter screens and things for distance learning. When COVID hit last spring, that threw a lot of people, into a stressful mode in trying to go digital right away. Well, Desmos jumped all over that. They upped their game. They put together all kinds of activities that were digitally based. And so they've got a whole slew of them right now, and they continually make upgrades for things. So I just wanted you to see this homepage and how you could maybe look through featured collections to see, here are some things I could use or not use. Now, I do believe, in my opinion, I'm a high school educator. There's not as much here for elementary teachers. That doesn't mean that elementary teachers should despair and think, well, this isn't for me. This is a big kids thing. I definitely believe that younger students can definitely see the benefit of working with multiple representations of things. And in fact, in our district, in our couple of elementary buildings, John Myers, an excellent teacher. He is doing so much with Desmos right now, and our little kiddos who are staying at home and doing virtual learning. And it's just fabulous, the things he's doing with them. And he could be a great resource for you, for any of you elementary teachers that want to get involved more with this. So what I would like you to do next is get a feel for searching for an activity. Now, this is kind of a no-brainer. There's a little search box at the top of the page. The biggest problem I have with the Desmos Activity Builder homepage is it's a poor search engine. And if you want to find something for a particular concept, for a particular unit, for whatever you desire, you might be better off going out just and Googling it. And if you can simply type in Desmos Activity Builder and then whatever that type of concept that you'd like to explore, you'll see all kinds of things that won't show up here, because they're very picky in what they allow to be shown in their search bar up here. And for those of you that are in social media, I'm a Twitter person. You can find them in Twitter just as well. And you could put a question out there, and people will respond in minutes to you with suggestions on activities to try. So those are all good things to do. I'd like to offer you a couple minutes now to just search for something that might interest you and explore that for a few minutes before we wrap up in our last few minutes. I will also add to the Google Sites for Desmos Activity Builder. I'll put in there some, for those of you interested, from Twitter, some of the people that are really good people to follow in terms of these types of activities. And I'm very impressed with the Desmos people at the upper levels. If I ever have a question on how to make something work, I'm struggling with the connecting pieces, I'm not getting some of the formatting right, I will send a tweet to Jay Chow, who does all of their design work, and within an hour, I usually have an answer. And so they're really good about getting back to you with answers to your questions.
Andy, there was a question about how someone knows the grade level of an activity, and another question of can you sort of find somebody who's created one and follow them, or do they not list the author next to that person?
The grade level may or may not be included depending on the author and their intent. I've seen activities that I've looked through that the author's very detailed and, like, in the description of the title, have indicated this is a grade 7 activity, or this is a 6th grade activity, or it's a high school geometry activity. But sometimes they just don't. So it's a little bit of hit and miss as to trying to determine the grade or the grade level of an activity you're looking at. And if you do find somebody you like, and I certainly do this myself, if you find the author of an activity that has a really good activity you like, you can, in a way, follow them and search for other activities that they may do. And usually they'll post them online, and they're really good about sharing those types of things.
So you don't search for them inside of the activity builder site, you just go online and Google?
Yes. I believe if you, for example, I need to think of somebody that I might want to search here. Yeah, I'm searching for right now somebody that I follow, and she does a lot of these activities, and I start typing her name in, and nothing comes up. So you can't really search an author in the activity search bank here. You have to search an activity, but I would just see about finding somebody. A lot of these people have their own websites, they blog, they have Twitter handles that you can follow. I'm not much into Facebook, but I'm sure Facebook is also an option for them as well. But just quite simply, if you Google a concept that you want to explore or see or find out more about, usually stuff comes up right away. I use that frequently. Okay, 2 last pieces here today. I would like you to please go back to the original activity we started with. I just put it in the chat again, the link. And once there, I have it pasted so that you all go to slide 24. So you're all being forced there. Now, slide 24 and slide 25 together are kind of wrap-up type slides, okay? So if you would just take a moment to please show, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, you know the drill.
Are we supposed to be able to get to slide 25? Because it's not letting me
Nope,
hit
I'm
next.
just having it on 24. Let me open up 25 for those of you that finished. Go ahead now. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was reading everybody's responses here. Now, in response to some of your comments here, you liked seeing some of the things here, but you'd like to be able to make your own. Stay tuned, everybody. That's not going to happen today, but in coming, well, next week, we're going to talk about, let me pull up my title here for you and I'll read it to you exactly. Next week's title is Teaching Synchronously with Desmos. So for those of you that are in the classroom face-to-face, how you can manipulate some of these activities and work with them with the kids and how you would actually do that type of thing. The session after that, we will go into building your own activities, where you start from scratch or you start from somebody else's and you learn to edit. So we will be doing those things. And if you're brave enough to stick around for the last couple, we'll incorporate some computational layer, which is some behind the scenes coding that allows some of those cool interactive pieces to occur. So stay tuned. We will make activities, our own activities.
Andy, some clarity. You said next week will be the teaching synchronously face-to-face, but that could also be synchronously online. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, I should have made that clear. Yes, I guess I'm in a face-to-face situation right now, so that's what I was thinking. But absolutely, if we have educators and their kids and they're separated because of COVID right now, absolutely, this could be a synchronous situation for them. So yes, we will definitely touch on that. Okay, and I see most of you on screen 25. If you would give some ideas. I'm almost a little embarrassed to admit this, but I'm a super prepared person when it comes to making sure of things. But I've deliberately not put a lot into next week's workshop yet because I want to see what you want to see. I want to see some ideas. So I want to basically build this around what you might think would be some good things to talk about next week. So I'm waiting to build a lesson that we can do synchronously with Desmos Activity Builder based on your comments. So give me some feedback. I see some of you talking about that warm-up activity where the cubes fill up. That's a little more advanced, my friends. So that's going to have to wait a little bit, but I share your enthusiasm for that. That is a super cool interactive piece there. And, you know, I'm also hopeful that maybe next week, if what we need to discuss in terms of synchronous, you know, activities, if we have time towards the end of that, we could start building some of our own activities then too as well, because it looks like a lot of you want to build your own activities.
If we only signed up for one activity and we want to go back and add more, how do we do that? Because I tried to do it and it said you're already signed up for this activity.
Tammy, I'm trying to answer you right now. Two ways you can do it. One is we have a registrar you can email. I'll put her link in the chat in just a second. The other thing is you received an email confirmation, and if you go back and find that email confirmation, there is a link that you can edit what you've signed up for in there. So if you wanted to cancel or if you wanted to say, no, I really want to take some other ones now, there is a hyperlink in that.
Okay, well, it looks like most of you are finishing up on that last screen, that survey screen. And what I wanted to do is save a few minutes to address anybody's, like, if you want to come on with the audio and ask a question, and if it's something quick we can answer right now, I'd be happy to do that. If not, I'll tell you maybe, hey, we got to wait a little bit. We have to be patient with that. But I thought we would just have some informal question and answering going on right now. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I'm super excited to do this, and I hope you see that in me and my enthusiasm. I think it's a great tool for educators in math and science, and it could be for other curriculum areas as well. But I would love to see you explore doing some more things with Desmos Activity Builder, and I'd love to help you in any way I can. So I'd love to see you come back next week and the 4 other sessions after that, and we will go from there. Andy Mann, anything to add from your end?
No, I think I want to thank everybody for participating. I also want to thank Andy Malbuff for his great organization. He used his time wisely and got a lot covered, and a great introduction to the Activity Builder. I am going to go ahead and stop recording now, so that way if you have private questions, it'll just be between you and Andy, but we'll stay around for a little bit. Thank you. I also, didn't I mention in the chat, but I also will save the chat because there were some links in there. Not all the little thank you stuff, but I'll save the meat of it.